This video looks at the Kahuna control panel. The Maverik range is made up of individual units known as Mavs for short. This means that the panels can be specifically tailored for each customer's needs. The ME bank control is done through conventional panels. Each button bank can control any ME, and this is changed using the up-down buttons to the right of the buses. The ME banks have 4 crosspoint bus rows. The 2 main background buses would normally control the A and B backgrounds, but pushing the bank selector will swap these to the C and D buses if there are any. The top 2 buses can control all the key buses, as well as backgrounds, util buses, and any of the 64 OGS buses. Use the small up-down buttons to change these, and then push to select. Push both buttons together to go back to the key 1 position. Normally, these buses follow the selected ME for the whole bank, but by holding down the selector, you can change these key buses to control keyers from any ME. It should be noted that when a keyer is set to dual tile resize mode, this button will normally select the source on tile 1, but pushing the selector button again will change it to tile 2. To get the right sources on the right buttons, you need to go to the Button Maps menu on a GUI. That's menu 8883. There'll be more of that in a later video. ME bus modules can be fitted with these large OLED buttons. These are user function definable buttons, which can have macros or clones attached to them. We'll talk more of that later. The T-bar module has the usual buttons for adding background and keyers into the transition. It's worth noting that the DVE button is assignable, and it is necessary to paste either DVE1 or DVE2 transitions onto this button. There's 2 more user function buttons by the T-bar. Along the top are the keyer on-off buttons. These normally perform cuts, but can be set to auto-trans the keyer on and off. The setting for this is in menu 8890. Setting transition times is done from the GUI screens. Hitting the time button next to the T-bar brings up a pop-up on the GUI to dial in the main transition time. The buttons along the top of this pop-up allow the user to change the local transition times of the keyers. Next to the T-bar, there are indicators to show what keyers, util buses, and backgrounds are available on the selected ME. The keyer panel is for setting up the keyers. You select the required ME using the small up-down buttons. Selecting the keyers is done using the bottom row. To select an E key, hold the E key button and then push the key 1 button to select E key 1. The 3 knobs on the right are for adjusting variables, and if you push them once they will snap to the nearest rounded off value. Double hit it and it will return to the normalized default value. Here is an E key panel for controlling the E keys. The OGS bus selector panel has the OGS buses along the top. Select the bus you want to change, then hit the crosspoint button on the bottom bus. You can select which OGS buses or DVE input buses you have on the top row of buttons on a GUI using menu 881. OGS buses can also be controlled by a satellite panel. These panels can also be set up to be macro or clone shotbox style panels. This is the load pad. This is used for loading memories but also has buttons for other useful functions. To load a DMEM into an ME bank, you first select the ME number. Then hit the MEM button and dial in the desired memory. Finally, hit load. You can recall memories from different projects, but the default will be the current project. Once you've selected your ME, that ME will remain selected. The Effects Dissolve button allows you to turn this on or off for file loads. Hit Hold Inputs and the next recall you do will not change the crosspoints on the ME. It will then cancel, but if you want this feature permanently enabled, just hold this button down until it goes yellow. DVE memories can be recalled, as can clipstore files in a similar way. The MISC button gives you access to config files. Hit MISC and then the type of config file you need on the numbered buttons. Other useful buttons on this module are along the top. Most buttons on the panel can have clone functions attached to them. To disable this, turn off the clone enables. If you hold this button down, the panel will show which buttons have clone functions attached. Similarly, the macro enable button will enable attached macros. Holding this button down will light up all buttons with macros attached to them. Finally, we'll talk about live mode. Live mode allows the panel to inhibit the function of all buttons except those which have been explicitly allowed. This mode is very useful when the panel is being used by novice operators. Hitting the button will put the panel into live mode. If you hold this button down, the panel will light up all the buttons which would normally be inhibited in live mode. When you're in this state, you can go around pushing the buttons to change their state. This way, you can give the operator access to just the functions you think they should have. There will be a further video covering the use of the joystick module. The last panels I'll mention at this stage are the User Function panel and the ATM panel. These are fully user configurable and will be dealt with in depth in the User Function panel video. It's worth noting that some of the panel functions can be changed using a GUI by changing the panel preferences setting in the panel config GUI pages. On a GUI, go to page 8890 to make your changes. To check what macros or clones are attached to a button, use the Locate Button function on the GUI. While in this mode, hit the button in question. The GUI will jump to a menu to show the status of this button, and it allows the user to change the active functions and lamp status. This page also includes buttons to detach any clones or macros. Don't forget that using the clone function, any function can be put onto almost any button on the panel, and we'll show this in another video.